Welcome to another episode of the All Tens podcast. I'm your co-host, Josh West. As always, we're with Clay Harris. And Clay, today we're continuing our discussion about the accountability chart. Very critical for our clients. Before we talked about the right structure, today we're going to talk about people. How do we get the right people in the right seats?
It's a good question, Josh.
Indeed.
How do we get the right people in the right seats? Well, when we're building the accountability chart and we go structure first, where we've defined the function and then the roles per the function, and we turn those into a seat, got to put a person in there. Most of the time, it's pretty clear, but we use like a little acronym in EOS to kind of put some real clarity around it, which is, do they get it, want it, and have the capacity to do the job?
Mm-hmm.
And get it means they just have this innate understanding. It's like they're hardwired to succeed in the role. Want it means they get out of bed in the morning, they're motivated to do it. Capacity means they have the right skills, background, training to get the work done. And when you can answer yes to all three of those questions, that's when you know that's the right seat for that person. And that's how we do it, Josh, right?
Indeed. And I think it's important to point out here that we've got to have three yeses, right? A no on any of those is a deal breaker. You can't just get it and want it, but then not have the capacity to do it. That's not going to work. That's not the right seat for you.
Let me ask a question. Let me actually push on that a little bit.
Okay.
I agree that we need a yes on the G, on the gets it.
Mm-hmm.
I agree that we need a yes on the W.
Mm-hmm.
I'm 90% in agreement on a yes on the capacity to do it. Where's the wiggle room there? Is there any wiggle room? Because let's say you get in the room and you like define this whole new function and you're like, oh my God, we have to go hire somebody, some unicorn who GWC's this seat.
I'll agree with you. And here is exactly why. You and I are on the same page in this one.
Okay.
And it's because the get it part is the nature, right? As you said, it's that innate ability. And so that's not something we can go out and acquire. We can't buy that. We can't teach that. It's just like, do you get it? Do you have it or not? Right? Wanted is the same thing. And I always warn people against this specifically. Like, we certainly can't teach or coach people to want it, but also it's important to understand that we can't pay someone to want it. A lot of times employers may say, oh, well, if I just give them a little bit of pay bump, they'll be a little bit happier and they'll want the job. That's not it, right? As you said, do they get out of bed, right? Do you spring out of bed? Do you want this? Do you see purpose and value in the work, right? And so when you've got that purpose and you see value in what you're doing every day, that's really, truly wanting to see. So I'll stress again, we can't pay people to want it. However, when we do get to the capacity side of things, right? This is about the education and the experience, certifications, if you will, right? So these things we can acquire. So if you've got someone inside of the organization and their core values fit, okay, they're the right person, they're great. We can touch more on that in a moment. And we certainly did in a prior episode when we talked about core values. And now when we're looking for the right seat, GWC, if they G and W the seat, but we've just got to get them coached up a little bit more. We've got to go get them certified, etc. Then we can make that investment. And so it's just a matter of you knowing as leaders, okay, we recognize that person has got a shortfall when it comes to the capacity, but that's something that we can do with training programs. Then, yeah, I think that we can give them a shot, but we've just got to be very conscious and cognizant of that and then solve that.
Heard. I agree. The thing that the value of GWC is like when you're in the middle of building your accountability chart, it's kind of the litmus test on putting people in the seats, right? Makes sense. Obviously, you got to have some sort of kind of criteria, but the long-term value, I think, of GWC, anytime we talk about right people, right seats, you already mentioned we're talking about core values fit on right people and GWC on the seat. That's how you determine right people, right seat. The value of that construct, which lives in the people analyzer tool, the value of that construct isn't just like throwing names in seats. the value of that construct is being on the same page, not only as a leadership team, but as a management, the next layer down in your management team, how they kind of talk about people, how managers have conversations with employees about right people, right seat, so that we're all kind of, um, this is one of the through lines of EOS around simplification about allowing people to have the same conversation, whether it's frontline manager talking to frontline team member, senior executive talking to division leader, CEO talking to COO, or anywhere in between. We're all using the same terminology around right people, right seat, core values matches, and GWC. And so that GWC concept is really powerful. You get on the same page about when you're putting names in seats.
Absolutely. And then to take that even further, now that we've gotten to a point to where we got the right structure in place, we started to put names in seats. We've ostensibly got people who GWC the seat and we're putting the name in that seat. Another great benefit of the accountability chart and having that role clarity is that we can only put one name in the seat. Because as we always talk about, if two people are accountable, no one's accountable. And for me, also the same applies for a role. We're not putting the same role in multiple seats. That way, when something comes up and we say, oh, well, who's going to address that? And so, also that communication throughout the organization, now everyone knows specifically the one person who's accountable for those particular roles, and we don't have any confusion, and nobody's in a situation where, oh, well, it's both of us, you take it, I got it, and then we've got balls dropped everywhere and everyone's shirking responsibilities. And so, that's another, part of when you say like being able to have that same language and getting everybody on the same page just really buttons things up for operations within the organization.
100%. I never have actually done this, but I always threaten to do it in the session room where I'm like, all right, if you want to put two people in the seat, be like, Andrew, go sit in David's lap. like, it works for a minute, but you can't have two people sitting in the same chair. Like it won't last for long. You can have one person in two seats, but like literally, all right, David, you're in this chair. Now go sit in that chair. Like, notice how you can't sit in two places at once. There's like some time constraints there. And so, that idea of like, which I think is so hard kind of to grasp onto for entrepreneurs, because literally entrepreneurs from day one have worn every hat. They're walking around doing the work, billing the work, selling the work. They're doing all of it all the time. And as the company grows, they just want to hire more people like them. But they're pretty unicorny, right? There's just not that many of them walking around for a number of reasons. Partially because they're special, like good job entrepreneur, but partially because they're omnipotent and all powerful, and there really is only one omnipotent and all powerful person in most companies, or maybe two. And so they can't transfer that power to everyone else, but they expect them to have the same outcomes. And so that conversation, multiple seats, who's in what seat, is really hard. And really kind of, once it clicks though, it's the concept that kind of unlocks the accountability chart and growth, because it allows people to own stuff, specialize in stuff, push forward without having to ask that founding owner all the questions, right? It's pretty cool. Pretty cool way to put a bow on the idea of how we grow the organization.
As you were talking through that, it reminded me of the nugget I'd like to share. And, you talked about, the two names in a single seat and having someone, sit in someone's lap. And that really kind of brings home that point. Another thing that I've seen people bring this concept in from their org charts is the dotted line. And so we've got one person in a seat, but then they end up and they want them to report to two different people for two different reasons. And I'm not sure who to give credit to on this one, but dotted line is Latin for doesn't work. And so a good accountability chart also, not only do you have a single person in that seat, but it's extremely clear to them the single person within the organization with which they report to. That is the person leading, managing, and holding them accountable, having those quarterly conversations with them, and helping them accomplish their goals and stay on track within the organization. So no dotted lines in accountability charts. What do you
Let
got,
me
Clay?
let me ask you a question on that, and this we can wrap it on this. Let me ask you a question. So,
Okay.
with a client, it's a small company, less than 15 people. They have one person who like 90% of the time is doing X, Y, and Z. And 10% of the time is on a completely different part of the business doing like administrative stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Okay.
And so, in kind of very black and white terms, that person is in a seat on this delivery side of the accountability chart. And also there's a seat over here in the administration part of the business where they do, half a day a week or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
There's no dotted line issue. They're just literally in two seats that are in completely different parts of the organization.
Mm-hmm.
I'm asking this sincerely and I don't know the answer. Kosher or not kosher?
So, entrepreneur organizations are a very live organism, as you know, Clay,
Mm-hmm.
right? And certainly when we're starting out, lots of different people wearing lots of different hats. It is okay to have someone sitting in two separate seats on the accountability chart. Where I would challenge the client is from a forward-looking exercise, do you anticipate this organization growing? And is this where we're going to be 6 to 12 months from now? And so I think it's okay for us to start looking at that and saying, where is this going? And also, where does that person's true strengths lie? Also, when we filter it through GWCing to see where's this person going long term, and in that respect, if they're already starting to be pulled in too many directions, that's where I'm probably going to start to just put that on the issues list and say, okay, this is known. You continue to operate this way, but at some point, you're going to have to start looking for this person getting into one of those seats as opposed to the other one, and let's start to kind of plan on where this is going.
Cool. Yeah, good. I did it right then. Whew. I was worried I was going to give somebody their money back. The thing that I always teach in the room when people are in multiple seats like that is that because sometimes they'll be like, it's this art. Maybe this is a little bit of my nugget. There's this art to like kind of think about like what actually makes up a seat and what is actually like 4 seats, because we're so used to like gobbling up everything and kind of figuring out. And it's a good reminder to me that you just gave me is like, think about what it looks like over the next 12 to 18 months. Duh. But the value in that is just what you said, and I'll just put a different angle on it. And I was doing this with the same client yesterday. Is like the value of putting that person in the next seat is that when it comes time, when we start to feel busy, and we were like, man, maybe we should hire someone else, instead of doing what we've always done, which is like, let me just go hire something over here, which is like not based in any real need of the business, just where we feel like it's the loudest or the creakiest or whatever. We go to look at the accountability chart and say like, hey, what kind of potential do we unlock by getting person A out of 3 seats? Like what's the value of that focus? What's the value of kind of like letting them do one thing? Like what if instead of hiring a person here, we just go hire a person to do a day a week of admin work? Right.
Yeah.
And that putting that on the chart like that, where you actually are like thinking you're future oriented, acknowledging when people are in multiple seats, kind of shows you your hiring plan for the next 12 to 18 months too, right? Especially if you got people wearing multiple hats. So that's a pretty cool little nugget on the accountability chart.
Indeed. As you talk through that, and when we talk about, people sitting in several different seats, usually it's the case that on some of those roles and some of the tasks that they're performing, it's certainly not where they're providing the most value, and they're not operating in their unique ability. And that's another good indicator of where they need to spend more time and where some of those tasks need to get delegated out.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Take them home, Clay.
Well, that's the All Tens podcast. That's our second episode around the accountability chart. I have a feeling there's going to be a third.
I'm going to do a third one.
We're going to do a third one on the accountability chart. And my name is Clay. His name is Josh. We're EOS implementers, and we'd love to talk to you about EOS. We'd also love to hear from you about our podcast. Is there anything you want to know more about? Any feedback that you have for us? Anything? Do you want me to wear a jacket one day and Josh to wear a sweatshirt? That's a possibility. We can do opposites day.
That would be really off-brand for both of us, Clay, but I'm into it.
Anyway, thanks so much for listening. We're happy to have you here. Good job, Josh. We'll see you next time. Bye.
All right. Bye, Clay.